Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, The Burner Beard. Obviously, after a very disappointing result against Real Betis, the latest in a string of disappointing results in 2020, I'm so pleased to be joined by a friend and by a very serious, very serious Real Madrid fan, Abdul Elakrat. I've wanted to get him on my channel for so long because whilst we have our differences, which is fine, everyone should have differences, um, I also think he raises a lot of good points, which I agree with. So I thought, you know what, let's get Abdul on my channel and let's have a chat about the latest frustrating result. Abdul, how's it going, man? Thanks for
Great. Well,
joining
how's
me.
everything? It's a
Yeah,
pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me.
no worries, man. It's my pleasure, to be honest. Right, let's get straight into it. Betis 2, Real Madrid 1. Was that the worst performance of the season so far?
I think the only performance you can compare it to is Mallorca. But when you look at the facts, Mallorca was right after international break. Zidane really played around with the lineup. Like, it wasn't really a serious lineup per se. He played Isco in a pivot. I think James played. He wasn't fit at all. If I'm not mistaken, Benzema didn't play that game. Correct me if
Yeah,
I'm wrong.
yeah, I don't think he played that
So it
game.
was a serious lineup at all. And also at the time, it wasn't necessarily like a surprise because we were poor, right? It was just the start of the season. We were really poor. We had some glimpses, but overall, you just didn't expect much. Yesterday, you're coming off arguably the biggest victory of the season, right? Your first classical win since, I believe, 2016 league win.
Yeah,
And the idea about yesterday is that like we didn't we weren't exposed in the final third like usual. Like, a lot of times we play fairly well, and then in the final third there's nothing. No, we did nothing right against Betis. Like, usually, in my opinion, we're one of the best teams in Europe at playing through a press, advancing the ball, getting the ball from the first phase to the second phase, and then we get to the third phase, and that's when we have problems. We couldn't even do that. Like, we couldn't. At times, even Zidane said it in his press conference. We couldn't string two passes together. Casemiro was giving the ball away in very weird manner. Cruz was giving the ball away. If you remember the Fekir chance for Courtois' amazing save, like, very weird to see Cruz give the ball away like that. Even when we weren't under pressure, we were making very poor decisions and giving the ball away. Every time they pressed us, we couldn't play through the press. And then I was just rewatching the game last night, and we didn't really create a single chance until Mariano came on in the 65th minute, if I'm not mistaken. Not a single chance in over an hour of play. Because if you look at it, the goal we scored, Benzema drops, he gives it to Vinny, and that's a poor cross from Vinny, and that's just a penalty. Like, that's not really a chance. The only other chance I can think of is when Vasquez put in a cross. I think it fell to Vinny, and Vinny cut inside and tried to get on target, but it's Vinny, so we'll let that go.
we'll come back onto Vinny, don't you worry about that. Yeah, as you say correctly, there was zero ball progression, and you like you rightly say, there we are genuinely one of the best teams in the world at progressing that ball out of tight areas, linking from defense to midfield into attack. It's just that passage in between midfield and attack where we're so blunt. And against Betis, absolutely nothing went right. Even defensively, we weren't the same team that we have been all season. But it's just so annoying that after the biggest result of the season, after a result that should really get everything going, everything should be perfect, everything should be flowing, confidence should be sky high, and then they put in a stinker like that. Why do Real Madrid always do these things? Why do we always have to have these frustrating results when everything looks so good?
Um, First of all, are you surprised?
To be honest with you, I was very surprised at that performance. Yeah.
I agree. I was surprised at the performance, but not the result. Because what I expected, like, even I was discussing the game with a few friends the day before, like on WhatsApp and stuff, and I was telling them, like, I'm not even kidding. Like, I think we're probably not going to win. I expect a 1-1, but I was expecting us to play well. And then, the usual story where in the final third you're just not there. But what surprised me that we did everything. Everything was poor. Everything defensively, even
Literally,
Varane is excellent. Varane was actually excellent. When you rewatch the game, he covered so much for Ramos, but Ramos just can't help himself. Even when Varane covers perfectly, like everything behind him, he still makes a dumb mistake. That's just ridiculous for a player of his caliber. That's not acceptable.
Bro, the mistakes are piling up. I tweeted about it. Ramos is making a lot of amateurish errors in 2020. A bit like Marcelo as well. It's really annoying. Varane has actually done a lot of carrying of our defense this year and this season in general. I'd say Varane and Courtois are probably the two players who can't really be blamed for this Betis debacle, really, because everyone else were so far off and so far from the level that they should be. But these two are actually all right.
No, like Ramos hasn't been anywhere near the expected level since the Supercopa in Saudi. Like, he hasn't, since he came back from that, it's just mistake after mistake, even when he doesn't pay for it. And he just doesn't, like, it doesn't make sense, because why are you not clearing that? Like, what are you trying to achieve? Why are you trying to carry the ball? It doesn't make any sense. Just find an outlet in Vinny or just clear the ball. It makes zero sense. It's, in my opinion, it's a bit of arrogance. I think it's a bit of arrogance from Ramos. And, sometimes when you see Ramos in advanced positions, you can blame that on Zidane, right? Because maybe a player as experienced as Ramos won't just do that, right? He's going to listen to his coach. But what the mistakes are arrogance. Some of these mistakes are pure arrogance. Like, if you remember the Villarreal game earlier in the season, the Sociedad game, the 3-1, right? When you gave the ball away. Villarreal gave the ball away. If I'm not mistaken, Celta, when he went out and pressed Denis Suarez for no reason. I mean, Denis Suarez is not going to hit the ball from there. He's not Pogba. Also, City, obviously. So it's just, I don't understand what's happening, because physically, maybe he's played too much. Yeah, he is playing too much, to be honest. Like, someone at Ramos' age should not play every single game.
But this is the thing. So Zidane said, didn't he, recently in the press conference, if Ramos is available to me, he's no good to me on the bench. He's going to play. So where do you draw the line? Do the club now look at Ramos's performance of late and think, look, he's just not that level anymore. He can't. Or do you trust Zidane and the process and say, look, Ramos might get that level back. Maybe it's just a phase that he's going through. But I guess there's a decision to be made there. Do Real Madrid go all out for a proper centre-back, a la Koulibaly, Skriniar, someone like that? Or do they just trust Ramos and wait until Militao? Because Militao hasn't got near enough amount the minutes that he should be getting.
Exactly.
As a player who needs to, I don't know, develop. Like, this season will have made Militao struggle badly in his development.
It's really funny, because when Nacho was third choice center back in the last 2 seasons, he was getting way more playing time. And then you get in someone as talented as Militao. I mean, last season, I've talked to like my neighbor is Portuguese. He's a huge Benfica fan, and he's one of those people that really follow the Portuguese league. That's his main league. There could be a Clásico on, and he'll watch Porto against Rio Ave or whatever. And he was telling me Militao is one of the best defenders he's ever seen in the Portuguese league. I even read articles about that. So he's a huge talent, and he's just not being played at all. You're not even giving him a chance. And when you had Nacho, someone who, like, I like Nacho. He's done a lot for the club. Like, he's just a very good role player. He goes in, he gives you a 7 out of 10, and he leaves. But when Nacho was your third choice center back and there's not much potential there, you were giving him way more chances. So it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, it doesn't. Also, he is the club's most expensive defensive signing. So you'd think the board aren't too pleased with Zidane at the moment with his lack of utilization with Militao.
Yeah, honestly, the Militao thing is one of the few things I don't get from Zidane. Like people talk about Zidane not playing Rodrigo. I don't have much of a problem. People talk about Zidane not playing Jovic as much. Again, I don't have much of a problem. We'll discuss these things later on, but I don't have much of a problem. The Militao thing, I really don't understand. It makes no sense to me.
Okay, yeah. So let's move on to. So Militao was obviously one of the youth signings and youth recruits of the summer, one of many, and it isn't showing any signs of stopping either. I know, Abdul. I know you. One of the things that we disagree upon on Twitter is Real Madrid's youth policy. I know you are strictly against this policy and this project. Talk to me why you're so against it.
Okay. So first of all, I'm not against it. For example, if you go back a few years when our main squad was good enough, I had absolutely no problem that Perez went out and we're like, okay, let me look at Martin Odegaard. He's one of the top talents in Europe. And we bought him. He played with Castilla. He went out on loan, etc. Even Vinny. We still had a great squad. We went out. We splashed, I think, 40 million on Vinny or 50 million. And fair enough. He comes in, plays with us last season, etc. The problem is when you if you look at our, if I'm not mistaken, no one knows. No one knows more about the talents we're buying more than you. So I'm guessing over the last 4 years, I think we bought over 10, 12 players.
Bro, it's easily in double figures, yeah.
Yeah. So when you're buying those players, and some of them are not cheap at all. You're talking about Rodrigo Goes, if I'm not mistaken, 40, 50 million. Vinny, 40, 50 million. You're buying those players and your main squad is not good enough. You're buying those players and you don't have a single reliable goal scorer in your squad. You're buying those players and your midfield is very thin. I was really shocked when we let go of Llorente and Ceballos in the summer. I don't even rate them highly, but we let go of them and the midfield is empty. We didn't even end up signing anyone in midfield, and I think that was a shock to everyone. So you're letting go of these players and your squad is far from good enough. How can you build for the future when the present is far from good enough? And the funny thing is, if those players are not most likely, most of those players were not come anywhere near Madrid level. That's just how football works. If football was about going to the under 18 World Cup and just picking out the best 10 players and knowing that in 10 years those 10 players are going to be world class, then it would be pretty easy. That's not how football works. Player development is much more complicated. So when I look at the club being linked to someone that I know you love, like Camavinga, for example, right?
Yeah.
And I'm seeing price tags like 60, 70 million. And on the other hand, we cannot buy a goal. When we score 2 goals, we have a celebration. It's like a national holiday. How am I not supposed to get mad? When we look at our signings in the last 6 years, we only bought one proven world-class player. Eden Hazard is the only proven world-class player that we bought in the last 6 years. Now, you can tell me the first 3 years, the first half of that period, we were fine. We had a great squad. I agree. But then when you come in 2018 and Zidane tells Perez, Bale is not good enough. It's time to let go of Bale. Bring in Mane, and he keeps Bale. And then Zidane is proven right. And it's time to bring in someone. Hazard was supposed to come in a year earlier. Perez sold Ronaldo for 100 million, and his wage. Ronaldo had the highest wages, obviously, and the second highest wages in Europe, if I'm not mistaken. And he didn't even replace him at all. He brought in, with all due respect to Lopetegui, he brought in a puppet, right, that just listens to him, and he got him Mariano. How is that acceptable? How am I supposed to accept that? And then he did it. He buys Hazard a year late, and he didn't even buy him for cheap, right? He still spent 100 million, which is not little for a player with 1 year left on his contract. In the summer, it's clear as day. I think. Are you surprised that we have attacking problems?
No, absolutely not. I completely agree that we have made serious errors.
So in the summer, we all knew those problems were coming. And we all knew, okay, we're not going to buy a right winger because we're going to wait 1 more year for Mbappe. Fair enough. As much as I want a right winger, I can understand. 1 more year for Mbappe. There's a reason Zidane wanted Pogba. Because if your attack is going to be that pathetic, then you need end product from midfield, right? And then what happens? We don't even end up buying a midfielder, let alone like even someone like Van de Beek, right? Like I don't like him, but Van de Beek gives you goals and assists from midfield, which is a solution to the attacking problems. He doesn't even go out and buy Van de Beek, so it's I don't know what to say. I'm just speechless. I don't understand what's happening.
Do you not think I completely get that? Do you not think there is some value? Okay, fair enough. Vinny, Rodrigo, Reinar, Erdegaard, Kubo, all of these lot, they're not ready yet. Do you not see that there is some value in buying them now before their values increase? Because we're not talking about players who could be. We're talking about players who will be world class. These are not normal talents.
I disagree.
Do you disagree with that?
Yeah, I disagree with that. I think even my favorite player out of all of them is Vinny. I love Vinny.
Do you not think Vinny and Rodrigo are destined for
no, Rodrigo, I'm not a big fan of Rodrigo at all. For me, he's a great finisher and he can cross. That's it. I don't see anything special. Like I watch football week in and week out and I see much more impressive attributes from players. The only way I can see Rodrigo becoming a top player is if he becomes a striker. If he somehow develops himself into a number 9, I can see that. Vinny is my favorite. I love Vinny. But when I look at Vinny, I see, like, I'm not cracking jokes. I'm not kidding. And you can try to think about this as well. I think Vinny's probably the worst finisher I've ever seen in my life. Can you name me someone worse? I don't know. Like
he's pretty bad, isn't he? Like I think Benzema during his 5 La Liga goal campaign was probably equally as bad.
Yeah.
But the thing is with Vinny, he's that one player, and you'll agree with this. He's that one player that we have that will always give us a spark, right?
Of course, 100%.
And if Real Madrid don't have that spark, then we're just dead, man, completely. Like without him or Hazard at the moment, we're completely dead.
But how embarrassing is that though? That we're relying on an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old.
I mean, it's very embarrassing. But do you think these guys all should be sent on loan? And also, what my point was, so with Vinny and Rodrigo, just 2 examples here, they were both heavily courted by Barcelona, yeah? So if Florentino didn't step in then, we would have lost both of them to Barcelona.
Well, I think it would have been better off beating Barca to a player like Griezmann. A player that would have probably won us La Liga this year for sure over.
No, but we wouldn't.
16-year-olds.
We weren't gonna sign him because there was no way he was gonna go to.
We don't even try anymore though. Like the problem with Perez nowadays is like I don't have a problem. For example, you love Mbappe, I love Mbappe. Everyone wants Mbappe, right? If Perez goes in and tries to get Mbappe and he fails, I have no problem whatsoever because it's a very complicated signing. But when you have players that are attainable. They're clearly attainable, especially when you're Real Madrid. You're the biggest club in the world. Real Madrid is Real Madrid because we've always made players that are unattainable, attainable, right? But when you have players that are actually attainable and you don't even try to get them, that's when my blood boils. When you look at Pogba in the summer, Pogba wanted to leave. Pogba wanted to come to Madrid. Zidane wanted Pogba, right? I think we can all agree. United wanted lots of money for Pogba, right? Perez goes in, and let's be honest, Perez was not serious. Like the club valued Pogba at like 70 to 80 million, and we did nothing. Like we didn't put in a bid.
Which club?
United.
No. Man United asked for 150 million.
Yeah, and we didn't even put a bid. We didn't even try.
But would you pay 150 million for Pogba?
Yes, I would, because you have to pay big to get players. It's just how it is. Like if you're gonna be cheap forever, you're never gonna win again. That's how it is.
So last summer you would have spent 150 million on Pogba in a heartbeat.
Given our summer that we ended up only buying one top player in Hazard, and we couldn't get a right winger, and we were
considering without Pogba we had spent 300 million.
No, well, if getting Pogba means I don't get someone like Jovic or someone like Militao, I'm down. Yeah, no problem. Because Pogba is more important to my season than an extra center back right now, or even Mendy. Pogba is just a crucial component. Like, I love Mendy. He's having a good season. Would you rather have Mendy or Pogba in your team right now? You would rather have Pogba. Would you rather have Jovic or Pogba? Would you rather, you know what I mean? Like, Pogba is a crucial component. That's why Zidane has been dreaming of Pogba for years in his team, because that's his vision. You have to respect the coach's vision.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Pogba. I was, I was one of the many who were so keen for Real Madrid to sign Pogba last summer, and I still am, to be honest. And I do think Real Madrid will sign him this summer. But do you not see the value in? Let's come back to the point. Do you not see the value in buying these youngsters, these clearly very talented youngsters, now, before their prices are closer to 100 million? For example, let's say Mbappe. We missed out on him when he was at Monaco. We didn't miss out on him. We had him all.
Can I say one thing?
We had him all done and dusted. 1 second. We had him all done and dusted. Florentino got it over the line, and Mbappe chose otherwise. I don't think the Bale issue was that much. I just think Mbappe is a very smart kid surrounded by very smart people, and I think Mbappe, on his career trajectory, he knows exactly what he's doing, and I don't think he would have come to Real Madrid that summer. So I think all this. I want Bale out of the club. I wanted Bale out of the club after Kiev when he wanted to leave, but I don't think Bale is at fault for the Mbappe thing. Do you agree?
I agree. But if you remember, what I mentioned about summer 2018 is Bale out, Mane in, not Mbappe, because I do agree with you. I think Mbappe, very smart kid, and he has a career plan, and he knows what he's doing, and he made the right decision, by the way.
Absolutely, spot on.
Exactly. So my point wasn't Mbappe. I've never, as I said, like people always think that I'm demanding Mbappe. I would never demand someone like that, because it's very complicated. It's unfair for me to pick on Perez for not getting someone like Mbappe. If he fails to get Mbappe, and if Mbappe retires without playing for Real Madrid, I'll be sad, but like, I cannot blame Perez. It's a very complicated signing. You have to be realistic. But in summer 2018, someone like Mane was realistic.
Mane was done. Mane was a done deal. Yeah.
Exactly. And Bale was past it. So who gets blamed for that? Perez. And then you miss out on Mane, and you just sign no one. You sign Mariano. Like, how am I supposed to process that? How am I supposed to remotely defend that? That's just pathetic for a club like Real Madrid. Back to the young talents. You compared these young talents to Mbappe. First of all, that cannot be the case. Mbappe, literally in his first half season at the top level.
Oh, no. I'm not comparing them statistically. I'm just saying, yeah, let me come back into that, actually, because I drifted off, didn't I? Let me make my point.
Yeah.
So we missed out on Mbappe at that price. Now we're going to have to pay double. We're going to pay closer to 300 million now instead of whatever it was, 150, 160 million. We've missed out on so many players. And now, like, for example, if Barcelona or if another team had signed Vinicius or Rodrigo, if Borussia Dortmund had signed one of them, you see how Jadon Sancho has increased in value when Real Madrid were courting him when he was at Man City, because they wanted to do a double swoop of Brahim Diaz and Jadon Sancho back then. And now you see when a player is in a realm where he can develop, which is Borussia Dortmund or Ajax or etc., their value is going to increase, Abdul, and dramatically. That's just the nature of the market. So why not? So I get your reasoning that perhaps they shouldn't be playing for us. Perhaps they should be more focused on the current team, on the present, and less on the future. But whilst there can't be these big names signed, surely the best thing is to let these players develop around these ready-made players that we already have, and then sign once these Galacticos become available, no?
And that's why those players, I don't have a problem with them being signed, but they shouldn't be. They should, most of them, like I would say, the rule about 70% of them should go out on loan because they can go to a club like Dortmund, like Sociedad, like even a Sevilla, etc., and they can develop in a much calmer environment with not as much pressure. Zidane is literally a babysitter nowadays. I mean, he plays Rodrigo, and then he's like, okay, there's too much pressure on Rodrigo now. He's not performing as well. I don't want to kill the kid. He takes him out of the squad. He plays Vinny. Too much pressure on Vinny. Take him out. Play Yo. He's a babysitter now. It's unbelievable. He's coaching the biggest club in the world, and he's a babysitter. When you look at,
But do you think Zidane, when he returned, obviously there's this L'Equipe and France Football and Marca saying Zidane was promised Hazard, Mbappe, Pogba. But do you think Zidane was completely unaware of Real Madrid and this project of signing these future bet players? Do you not think so?
I think Zidane was aware, and he has no problem with it. Just like I have no problem with it. The
No,
problem,
but you were just saying he's a babysitter and he might not like it.
yeah, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't like it. What coach would enjoy this? What kind of coach would? I think I don't know if you've been following me for a while, but I didn't rate Zidane as a great coach previously, right?
Yeah, I know that.
And Zidane has completely proven me wrong, and I admit that, and like I apologize to Zidane. So Zidane is really maximizing the potential of this squad, in my opinion, to the max, right? And he's still 2 points behind the worst Barca in over a decade. Do you think Zidane enjoys that? Because if Zidane had better tools this season, don't you think we could possibly?
I think we'd be flying. Yeah.
Exactly. Do you think Zidane enjoys that?
No, I don't think he enjoys it, but I think he accepts that there is a process to things. I'd say. Wouldn't you?
A process of what though? What's the process here? Like I'm lost because
I mean, a process of buying intelligently, right? So they wouldn't have spent 100 and whatever what Chelsea wanted, 150 on Hazard. They didn't want to spend 150 on Pogba, which United wanted, but they signed Hazard for 100, and they'll sign Pogba for 100 next summer. Do you know what I mean? That sort of running down the contract of players, getting them cheaper, whilst also integrating these youth players who you want for the future. I guess that's the kind of process they're going for, right or wrong. So I think that's the process they're going for.
So saving 50 million on Hazard was worth having one of the most disgraceful season in the history of the club. Because we kept the same squad, we sold Ronaldo, we sold 50 goals, and we bought Mariano. We waited an extra year for Hazard, and we had one of the most disgraceful seasons in the history of the club. 68 points. I think it doesn't get more disgraceful than that.
It was
to save 50 million. You think it's worth like saving 50 million?
I personally don't think it was worth it, but to be honest with you, that team was the team that won a Champions League title as well. Minus Cristiano, obviously. Minus Cristiano is not a small thing to say, because obviously we still haven't recovered from his lack of goals. However, that team shouldn't have performed that badly, surely.
No, surely. But in football, when you have a team that wins everything, well, you can like literally, you can go back to some of my tweets literally right after the Cardiff final. We were on top of the world, right? Back-to-back Champions League. We won the double. I mean, we were on top of the world, to say the very least. And I was talking about, like, if you want to sustain this, you have to inject proven top players into the squad. Because if it gets stale, first of all, players are aging. And secondly, we're all human beings, right? I'm pretty sure when we beat Liverpool in Kiev, were you as happy as you were when we won La Decima?
Well, to be honest with you, that final seemed to me second nature. Like it was a walk in the park almost. Like Real Madrid didn't even need to be anywhere near top gear.
Exactly. So
it was just so obvious that we were going to win that. To be honest.
So as a fan, if your motivation and your just energy is decreasing, then of course the players are going to start losing motivation and ambition. That's completely normal. That's why you inject competition. You inject true
Fresh
competition.
competition, yeah.
Like,
Sure.
but you don't inject Kubo or Rodrigo. No, you inject a top player. You inject a player that's there to take Modric's place, to take Cruz's place, to force Casemiro to improve, to force Ramos to improve. And if that player is actually good enough, he's gonna rightfully take the veterans spot. That's how you maintain success. But what we did is we just kept the same dead squad, and we had a horrendous season, right? And then we get Hazard a year late, and then we're gonna get Pogba a year late. We're just behind. We're behind in the process. We're behind in the project. And honestly, I don't even trust. Like, I don't. If I had to put my money, I wouldn't put my money on us getting Pogba. Like, the recent reports regarding Pogba are not very positive. Like, I'm seeing reports that we're not even interested anymore. I wouldn't be shocked. I don't trust this the club to close complicated deals anymore. Like, I want the club to close complicated deals. Look at what you can say what you want about Barca, but look at Barca pulling off Dembele, for example. It was only a year after he was at Dortmund. Like, literally, he had like 3 or 4 years left on his contract. Let's be honest. I'm pretty sure you think Ousmane Dembele was an unbelievable talent, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So in hindsight, you can say, "Oh, bad signing and stuff," but let's be honest, it was a nice signing. It was the right signing, especially with losing Neymar like that. They went out and they acted like a big club, right? You could say what you want, you can say it's wrong, but Dembele didn't show up to training. They bullied Dortmund and they got Dembele. Coutinho was having the season of his life. He was on top of the world. Liverpool were really improving, and Barca pulled off the signing in the middle of Liverpool's season. In the middle of Liverpool's season. That's how you act like a big club. You just get it done. You have to do some stuff behind the scenes. You have to overpay. Obviously, I mean that's how ultimately that's how you have a great team. You get what you pay for ultimately in football. Yes, you can rely on talents and stuff, but if you just rely on talents, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work, and we're seeing that. So look at what Barca every other summer. Like, imagine. Let's be honest. Imagine if we had Griezmann on our team. Don't you think we would be comfortably at the top of La Liga right now?
Yeah, sure. He'd had certain experience. He'd had goals, wouldn't he? But he's struggling at Barca, isn't he?
But first of all, he's playing out of position at Madrid. He would play in his preferred position, and secondly, he would still help us a lot. Like, he would still, even at his worst, Griezmann would still give you a lot of what you need right now and what you're lacking. That's just how you act like a big club. Barca realized Suarez is aging, Dembele is injury prone, and they got Griezmann. Forget the fact that forget us getting Griezmann. Imagine if Barca didn't have Griezmann, and all they had in attack right now was Ansu Fati and Messi. That's not a good look.
Okay, so what would you recommend? What would you, in your opinion? So you're obviously by the sounds of it, you've lost a lot of faith in Florentino Perez, right?
I love Perez. I wish he can prove me wrong. Like, I'll be the happiest person ever if he goes out.
No, but at the moment you've lost faith in him, right?
Of course, yeah. I don't have any expectations.
So what? But if me and you, like, to be fair, Abdul, I completely agree. Yeah, I completely agree with everything you've just said. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if me and you, two fans, one in London, one in Toronto, are you from?
Yes. Yeah, I'm from Toronto.
Can see that. Do you not think, arguably Real Madrid's greatest president, a man who grew up watching Di Stefano and these lot win Champions Leagues, a man who started the Galacticos, a man who did that madness in 2009, a man who is recognized as a spender, do you not think he knows that what needs to be done, but he's sort of hamstrung at the moment? Maybe he's...
Are we broke? Maybe.
We're not broke. We're not broke. It's just, the thing is, what I'm trying to get at is perhaps timing is more important than what people are making out to be. Maybe timing is crucial.
Okay, to be perfectly honest with you, if I have to predict our summer.
So okay, let's go on to that now. What would you do? What would you do this summer? So your dream summer, what would it be?
So my dream summer, not what I expect. Okay. Um, I'm not gonna give you a dream summer. I'm just gonna give you an actual realistic one, right?
Yeah. Give me a realistic one, not a
Yeah,
dream one.
I need a goal scoring winger. I don't think it's too much to ask for a club like Real Madrid to go and get someone like Mane or Salah from Liverpool. If Perez is willing to pay the money, it's not too much to ask,
So
right?
if they were to ask for, I don't know, what do you think they'll ask for? They've probably got 2-3 years left on their contracts.
I think 150.
150, 175. You pay that in a heartbeat for either one.
Well, it's either you pay that or you have another poor season. So, I mean, if we're not in the business of winning, then okay, don't pay that. We can be cheap again.
Okay. Okay, go on. Okay, go on.
Right? And then, because I'm gonna spend that much money on Salah and Mane, I'm gonna be realistic. And in midfield, I'm gonna go for a cheaper option like Fabian Ruiz or Van de Beek. Totally understand that. Pogba's not possible. The most important thing is the goal scoring winger. As much as I love Pogba, but it has to be the goal scoring winger. If we end up with Pogba and uh, without a goal scoring winger, fair enough. I'll accept. Fair enough. Yeah, at least we have Pogba, right? And then we need a center back. I don't think it's. I don't need. I don't think we necessarily have to like splash money on center backs. By the way, like I think center backs are. It's all about your eye for talent, right? Like look at Zidane, for example. He got Varane when he was so young for very cheap. So just like we got Militao, I think we can get a center back as talented for even cheaper, and we can develop them. Like I don't think we have to splash crazy money.
Ooh, so you're talking about another talent.
But do you remember? I don't know if you saw my tweets before. I've talked about this many times. It's very easy to integrate young talent into defense and midfield. Attack wins you games. Wins you, or like the attack. It's either you're gonna win or lose by your attack. You cannot do that in attack. You cannot afford to have someone like Vinny if you're trying. The current Vinny, if you're trying to win trophies right now, because he's a poor finisher. You cannot afford to have someone as one-dimensional as Rodrigo right now. That's just the attack wins you or loses you the game, right? So I think you can slide in a young talent into defense or midfield, but you can't afford to do that in attack. And I talked about that many times. So I don't have a problem. That's why I'm not against the youth policy. I'm just against overdoing it. That's it. Okay, so cool. That's it. Like I'm not asking for too much. A goal scoring winger, so an elite goal scoring winger that will cost a lot, a midfielder or two. We can bring back Odegaard, so one midfielder is enough, and the center back. That's it. I'm really not asking for too much, and I don't think it's that crazy for a club like Madrid to do that.
Would you stick with Benzema and Jovic?
Yes. I don't think buying another striker is the solution, and Zidane won't do that because Zidane believes in Benzema, and I believe in Benzema. As much as people love to hate on him, Benzema is far from the problem. It's not Benzema's fault that he's not surrounded by goal scorers. Look at Firmino; he's surrounded by two goal-scoring wingers. That's what Benzema should be surrounded by, but obviously we're surrounding him by pretty much nothing.
And he's still, to be fair to Benzema, he has still carried quite a lot of load this summer, like this season.
Exactly.
Like he's done well. Like he's obviously not in that purple patch anymore, but Benzema goes through that. Anyone who's seen Benzema since 2009, he goes through these patches. But at the end of the day, he is our best 9.
Look, ultimately, people like yesterday I was seeing stats about how like the crazy amount of minutes that Benzema has played this season. And I was like, okay, he's our best attacker. Of course he's going to play more than Jovic and Rodrigo and Vinny. Like, it makes sense, right? Benzema is the only attacker in our team that's good enough right now with Hazard injured. So, of course, he's going to play a lot. Like, it doesn't make any sense how people are saying that, like, Zidane doesn't play Benzema because he has a friendship with him. I mean, Zidane plays Benzema because he's he's our best attacker. That's just the truth, whether you like it or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not like the craziest, biggest Benzema fan ever. I'm just being real. Like, I've criticized Benzema a lot in the past. Like in 2018, that was a pathetic season. But the truth is, he's our best attacker. In the first half of the season, Benzema really carried us, man. Like he would have a goal or an assist in every single game, playing with little kids. Like it's not his fault. Look at Firmino. Firmino has. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think Firmino has scored at Anfield in the last year in the league.
Yeah, he's on a really long streak of not scoring. Yeah.
Yeah, and Firmino has 3 goals in his last 19 games. I don't hear those things about Firmino. Why? Because Liverpool understand the type of player he is, and they're surrounding him with players that complement him. It's very unfair what's happening to Benzema. Obviously, Benzema cost us against Betis. Of course, giving the ball away like that is not acceptable. Of course, he cost us against Levante. Missing those chances is not acceptable. But ultimately speaking, if you think Benzema is the problem, you need to really like seek help.
Ooh, shots fired. Let's move on to you're just talking about Zidane and his favoritism. Marca this morning. I don't know if you've seen it, Abdul. They Carlos Carpio reported that Pochettino and Allegri are waiting in the wings should things go wrong for Zidane, and should he end titleless, and should he choose to walk away. They even said. Would you give Zidane time? And how long would you give him?
100%, I would give him time. I mean, the only reason we're even challenging this season is because of Zidane. Back in August, I thought this squad has no business challenging for anything. And the only reason we're challenging is because Zidane has maximized the potential of the squad, and because Barca have been really poor. So, of course, he deserves time. Like, he's given... This squad is not supposed to... if this squad goes out against City next week, that's completely normal. This is not a squad that should make the Champions League semifinals. If this squad does not win La Liga again, that's completely normal. You're going up against Messi, Griezmann, Suarez, Dembele. I mean, and you're playing with Benzema up front. So, yeah, of course Zidane deserves time. It's not even a question. And this is coming from someone that, as you guys know, that didn't read Zidane at all. But the truth is, he's proven me wrong, and I have no problem accepting it.
How long would you give him? A couple of years?
Well, the thing is, like, if we come in next season and we don't have a proper summer, then again, it's not Zidane's fault, right? So, but if you have a proper summer and Zidane is not delivering, then fair enough, maybe he needs to walk away. So it's a very complicated question. It's very
there was a lot of talk about should the board not give Zidane his 3 demands, which is what he wanted: Hazard, Pogba, Mbappe. He'd walk. Do you reckon he will?
I wouldn't be surprised if Zidane walks this summer, not even like next year. I wouldn't be surprised, because if Zidane doesn't get Pogba, because let's be honest, if Zidane doesn't get Pogba, he's not going to get like Amani, right? It wouldn't make sense. Like if Perez is not willing to get Pogba, he would go out and splash even more money on Mane, or just, probably more money, right? Because Pogba has a year left on his contract. So that means Zidane getting what? Like Van de Beek?
Pogba will have 2 years, yeah. I mean,
correct me if I'm wrong, but like I double checked this, and even like a good source confirmed this. Pogba has an option, but it's a player option, not a team.
I think it's Man United's option. I think.
I don't know. Like it was a friend of mine like confirmed it with like an agent actually that works for Pogba's. His agent's like a little company or whatever.
Okay. So well, that's good news then, if that's the case.
That's really good news. Yeah, a year left on his contract. So if Zidane, so that's the thing, right? If Zidane doesn't get Pogba, then he really doesn't deserve this. You know what I mean? Because what are we going to sign then? Because ultimately the market is not that open.
Yeah. Let's move on to something Madrid fans really do go on and on about. His handling of the rotations. So obviously we spoke about Militao not getting near enough minutes as he should be getting, particularly when Ramos has been so dodgy in 2020. Why not rotate? Why not give him a rest if it is a case of tired legs? Rodrigo's completely been frozen out. Jovic and Mariano haven't been given a chance, even though Benzema's not firing. And his preference of his old guard. I mean, I love Zidane. You know I love Zidane. You know I'll always back him. You know I'll always make excuses for him. And my excuse for this has always been, just as he did with Vinicius, just as he did with Isco, he's trying to recover these players, right? He's trying to recover the likes of Marcelo, Ramos, Modric, Bale, Benzema. But do you think that's at the cost of the team's results? Do you not think he should stop doing that? And do you not think he should give more focus on the squad, the options that he has got, which are underused?
I don't think Zidane is trying to recover those players. I think, for example, he used Marcelo last against Levante and against Celta and against Betis
And against
because,
Barca?
and against Barca because he saw that, okay, I have a very serious attacking problem. Okay, against Betis, who won the penalty?
Yeah.
Who
Marcelo.
got fouled? Marcelo, right? So Zidane is using Marcelo because he gives you that extra numbers in the box. He gives you more like out of the box, something out of the box in the final third, and he's trying to solve an attacking problem that he has against the lesser teams, right? And as we saw against Barca as well, Marcelo did add an extra dimension. Now, does that mean that overall Marcelo is better than Mendy right now? No, but just from a tactical standpoint, I think Zidane is playing Marcelo because against certain teams, you think what Marcelo gives an attack is more
He can break down the opponents. Yeah, I get that.
it's more valuable than what Mendy gives an attack, and he's willing to take that risk of Marcelo being poor defensively. So that makes sense to me. I don't think it's him trying to recover. I think Zidane's just trying to use what he has and make the best and improve his team offensively against the lesser teams. Now, Zidane playing Modric. First of all, Modric has been pretty good in 2020. Obviously, nowhere near peak Modric, but he's been quite valuable. And at the same time, Valverde, if you remember, Valverde like went through a run of a few games where he looked that tired. Like Valverde is a machine, so you cannot like you have to rotate. You cannot play Valverde week in and week out, week in and week out. It doesn't make any sense. Like he's gonna run out of steam. So especially given that Modric has been very decent, I think it's normal for him to play Modric some games, right? That's what he has. That's what he has to work with. Like ultimately, how many midfielders do we have? We have Casemiro, who doesn't have a backup. Like, hopefully he doesn't collapse on the pitch, right? Because it's actually getting worrying. Like he plays every single week. I'm praying he doesn't play against Ivor. You have Cruz, Modric, Valverde for the two in front of the DM, right? For the interior and the number 8, etc. Because Isco never plays there anymore. Because Isco physically is not 2014 Isco, where he can play in a 3-man midfield. And then you have Isco who can play somewhat in attack. He can play in the diamond, etc. That's it. Your midfield is very thin. And that's why I was surprised we got rid of Llorente and Ceballos without replacing them. So Zidane is doing his best with what he has. Now, Jovic and Rodrigo. Okay, guys. I'm sorry, but like Jovic was given enough. If I'm not mistaken, I think Jovic started an entire month of football. Okay, and he didn't show enough. Most of the time, we were playing with 10 men. Jovic is a poacher, right? You cannot be a poacher and have very lazy movement because you become useless. But Jovic, his movement has been really, really, really poor. Like I'm really shocked at his movement, his body language, defensively. You guys have that's why people need to understand Zidane's how Zidane views his team. This season, we've been one of the best pressing teams in Europe. Jovic himself said in an interview that he doesn't like pressing. He literally admitted it himself that he doesn't fancy pressing. And obviously, when you watch Jovic, he offers nothing off the ball defensively when we don't have the ball. And anyone that knows anything about pressing knows that if every player is not committed, your press is useless. In fact, it becomes a hindrance to the team. Like it ruins your defensive shape. So that's why Jovic doesn't play. He hasn't shown enough. When he receives the ball outside the box, he's very stiff, loses it easily. He just needs to improve a lot. Like there is no guarantee that Jovic will be anywhere near Madrid level. That's just the truth that people don't want to admit. Rodrigo, one of our best finishers, can be useful. I'm not the biggest fan, but I think Zidane not using him at all is a bit of a mystery because we have an attacking problem and he's a good finisher, right? You can even reinvent him in a front two or something and just try different ideas. So I think Rodrigo being completely removed from the squad is very weird. And I'm not even the biggest fan of his, but it's kind of weird because he offers something that we lack. But ultimately, again, Rodrigo like from day one when I saw Rodrigo, everyone like when he scored the hat trick, everyone was starting to say, "Oh, he's better than Vinny," etc. I was like, no, like when the first time I saw Vinny, I saw something very special. When I see Rodrigo, I don't see something that special. You know what I mean? I see, of course, he's a good player, but I don't see crazy potential.
Yeah. So you mentioned sort of tinkering with the lineup, tinkering with the formation to accommodate Rodrigo. Why? This is my problem. This is one thing that has annoyed me about Zidane. Well, not annoyed, more sort of frustrated that he doesn't try it more often. Why not? Like, so Jovic is your signing, right? There's some I don't know where it's come from, but apparently Zinedine Zidane, apparently the board was sort of in two minds about Jovic, and Zidane got it over the line saying it's a player I want, right? As per reports. So if he's your signing, you know his strengths, and you've seen that the team are struggling for goals. You don't want to get rid of Benzema, so why not play to Jovic's strengths and set up a similar formation where he was at Frankfurt in a 2 and see him thrive, see if that would help him thrive. Because clearly, as you're perfectly correct in saying, that he is struggling with movements and he's so isolated when he's playing alone up there, and he's not moving at all, and often he doesn't help himself during that period where he did start and Benzema was injured. But why not tinker with the lineup? Why not try something different? Do you know what I mean? Even if Benzema's injured, you've got two strikers in your squad who aren't being used nearly enough. Why not use it as a 2-man up top? Do something. Do you know what I mean? Come up with solutions.
I agree, but I think I know why. I think it's because Zidane, just like all the top managers, believe it or not, is quite pragmatic. So he sees Benzema as the player that always helps with ball progression, right?
Is it pragmatism or is it stubbornness?
I think it's just the way he views football. You know, I think it happens with every manager. Like Zidane views football. He said it many times. Like he sees Benzema as the perfect number 9. Why? Because he gives him more passing angles, more passing options everywhere on the pitch, which helps.
But that's fine. That's fine. I've got no worries about that. I'm not saying bench Benzema, put Jovic in. I'm saying allow Benzema to play that role which you are so impressed with and which you know he can play, but have Jovic there as the scorer whilst Benzema creates and whilst Benzema is going through this patch where he can't score. Have Jovic there, who's a natural goal poacher. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. But like the idea here is like he loses a midfielder, right? And when he loses a midfielder, and he has someone like Jovic who doesn't offer much defensively off the ball, right? He even admitted he doesn't like pressing. Zidane, his team is weaker defensively. I'm just telling you how he sees it. I'm not disagreeing with you, by the way. Like I've said, I think Zidane should try different shapes because you have to take risks, right? Like you cannot drop. You're already dropping points against those lower teams. So what is there to lose, really, right? Like even if you become weaker defensively, you might outscore them with this new shape. But Zidane doesn't want to take that risk. I agree with you though. Like
it's just very predictable, isn't it? Like these lower teams, they know what to expect from Benzema. They know how Real Madrid are going to operate. Why not switch it up? Why not throw something new into the ring? Do you know what I mean?
Like it's actually torture to watch sometimes. Like I look forward to the big games. Like I was really excited for the Clasico, the City game. I'm really excited for the second leg for at the Etihad next week. But like I'm not excited at all for Eibar. I wasn't excited at all for Betis. I was dreading it. It's torture to watch that. And obviously, yeah, we need to try something different. But I'm just saying I understand where Zidane is coming from, but I don't agree. Like he needs to try something. Even Mariano, like look against Betis, right? When Mariano came on and we want flat 4-4-2, you saw both sides of it, right? So you saw why Zidane doesn't play it, and you saw why you want to play it. So if when Mariano came on, we created more chances. We had like 10 minutes of dominance where Mendy hits the post, and we had like 3 good chances. The first hour, we didn't even have a single chance. So that's why you want to play like that, right? But I thought our transition defense was very poor, and we didn't look as solid. All game we weren't good defensively, don't get me wrong, but we looked even more open. So that's why Zidane doesn't like it. That's just football, right? It's a matter of opinion. But I agree with you. I would rather take that risk because you're losing points anyways, right? It's not like you're winning games using Zidane's approach.
Yeah. So you mentioned the Man City game that you're excited about it. for the record, I'm not excited about it. What would you like to see in that match? Obviously, Sergio Ramos is suspended. What would you like to see different? And if we were to turn it around, just quickly, what do you think needs to be done?
I think the worst. First of all, I'm excited about it because when we play the top teams, they play, and when you have a poor attack and you play a low block, it's just boring. Like, I mean, it's the worst thing you can see in life. So when you play against the top team, you play, you have more openings, etc. So it's more enjoyable to watch. Secondly, because we show up in big games. We got 4 points from Atleti, 4 points from Barca, 6 from Sevilla. Like one of our best performances was against PSG. We won the Super Cup. Like we step up in big games, and I trust it in big games. The way we should approach, I think the worst thing we could do is chase the tie from the first minute because we need 2 away goals. I think that would be very stupid, and if we do that, I think we're gonna get nuked. Like we could be out of the tie within 15 minutes. The best thing we could do is just stay in the tie. You're playing a team. Yes, they're a great team, but they make lots of errors. Like you saw it in the last game, right? They gifted you a goal. I think who gave the ball away? I forgot. I can't remember. I think it was Gundogan. I can't remember. But their team is full of errors. Laporte, their best defender, is 100% not going to play. They're going to play a Walker, Otamendi, Fernandinho, Zinchenko, back forward. Even Ederson is quite error prone. You're going to have chances. You're going to have chances. And
especially if De Bruyne is not fit, because he missed the derby, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. So, like, even we're poor defensively, but we're going to have chances to score 2 goals. Like we're gonna 100%, we're gonna have chances to score 2 goals. So you cannot overcommit. What you have to do is stay in the tie. And once you get that first goal, let's be honest, City are not that great mentally. Once you get that first goal, let's see what they're made of. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Would you play the diamond with Isco?
Yeah, I would because honestly, we only play well with the diamond now. And I've said it. Like I think our midfield, we're just not realizing that. Like, look, most of our midfielders are just not the same anymore, and we get overrun with the 3-man midfield. So
it's interesting, isn't it? Like you think back to when Zidane had the BBC and now he sort of moved heavily towards the diamond in big games. I wonder if this is here to stay now with Zidane. Maybe he thinks this is the way, but then you think about would he go with it if he had Hazard, Asensio and Mbappe? Do you know what I mean? Would he?
Of course not.
He wouldn't. It's just adapting, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah, exactly. That's why, like, he's just adapting, and that's probably we look better defensively with it. We look better in possession with it. We progress the ball so smoothly. Like even in the first leg, I mean, Pep respected us so much that he barely even pressed. I mean, that much says how good we are with that diamond when we're moving from one phase to another. And we're better defensively. The only problem is Isco needs to lean to the right, which he did in the first leg, so he can support the fullback. And then you have Valverde there, who's a beast defensively. And we just, in my opinion, we just have to stay in the tie. Don't overcommit. Don't get too high. Don't get too low. We should be quite pragmatic. Like we shouldn't just totally give them control. Obviously, we have ball players. We can have our 5 minutes of control here, 10 minutes of control there, but just stay in the tie. Don't overcommit. Once you get that 1 goal, trust me. Like maybe I'm being too optimistic, but I'm excited, man. Like I think as long as the squad morale is not bad and the squad actually believes they can do it, we're gonna have our chances.
You reckon they can turn it around?
By the way, I forgot to mention, if Courtois is fit, if Areola's gonna play, let's not even watch the game.
Yeah, that's true actually. Well, JLS came out and said he's a doubt, isn't he? Even though earlier on there was reports that it wasn't as bad as first feared. But I don't know.
I think we have, and honestly, Ramos missing the game. Like, I know it's
it a blessing in disguise?
It could be, man, because like Ramos is the captain, and on a famous night like that, if you want to pull off a famous comeback, you gotta have your leader and everything. But I'm not seeing any good signs from Ramos anymore.
Who do you play, Nacho or Militao?
Militao, obviously. I mean, come on, you spend 50 million, right? If he's not gonna fill in on a night like that, then you gotta give it to him.
And I guess Marcelo's out, so it has to be Furland.
Yeah, you have to play Mendy because, like I said, you're trying to stay in the game.
Yeah.
You can because if you overcommit, they could end the tie in 10 minutes.
All right, Abdul, it's been so good. Give me your general overview of the season. I don't know, anything. Just throw something at me. How has it felt this season? Worse than last season? Better than last season? Improvements? Negatives?
I think it's a season of ups and downs. Like, obviously, it's better than last season. I mean, at least we have something to look forward to. Even if we lose next week to City, like, we still have the league to look forward to, even if we're not top anymore. But ultimately, I think it's a season of kind of overachieving. Honestly, I did not even expect us to
You
be.
think so?
Yeah, because that's just my expectations in August. I didn't expect us to challenge for the league, but thankfully, Zidane has kind of maximized the potential of the squad. Barca are having a poor season, and I think we're going to be in the title race until the last match day, right? So I think that's overachieving. And if we lose to City, I mean, that's just, I mean, that's normal, right? I mean, it's not Madrid 2017, right? You're not, Man City simply have, just look at their attacking options. We can't even we don't even have a single goal scorer in the squad. So I think we're overachieving. And Hazard's injury, right? You have to keep that in mind.
Asensio's injury, yeah, there's been a lot of setbacks. I counted today. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that there's 34 different cases of injury suffered by Real Madrid players.
Exactly. So it's been like Zidane like actually challenging.
Do you
after
think
all these difficulties is impressive?
Do you reckon? Honestly, final question. Do you think if Zidane wins the league, where does this rank in terms of his achievements as a manager?
I think it's his second biggest. It has to be his second biggest achievement after
the three-peat.
The whole three-peat thing. Like it's if you're just taking each Champions League individually, this league would actually probably be more impressive. But the whole three-peat, like when you stick it all together, the achievement, obviously it's more impressive. But bro, like let me ask you this: name me a worse attack that won a league title in Europe's top 3 leagues in your lifetime, like Serie A, Premier League, and La Liga.
I can't even think of one, to be honest, because this is how bad it is.
The only attack I can think of is 2011, 2012 Juve with Conte when they had Matri, Vujunic, and a bunch of journeymen, and he won the title. That's it. I can't think of anything else.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, isn't it? And it's quite amazing to see what Zidane has managed to do, really, with limited resources.
Exactly. So
cool. Right, Abdul, thank you so much, man, for joining me. It's been a really interesting chat. We've cleared a few things up, and yeah, it's proof for timeline that we don't hate each other.
Yeah, we don't, man. It's just we both want what's best for the club, and that's football, right? That's the beauty of football. We just argue.
You have different opinions.
That's
and now I've got you on record for saying that you want a youngster as a centre back. So
no. No.
So yeah, that's all good. All right, thank you, man. Thank you so much, and thank you guys for listening. Please like and subscribe to my channel and share. And like I always say, please give me ideas in the comment section for what sort of content you want to see. At the moment, it is just podcasts, but I'm willing to do quite a few other things, given time and opportunities. So yeah, please share your thoughts, and thank you for listening as ever. And once again, Abdul, thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.